listening to Short and Sweet, a Donut Princess podcast, and today I have a very special guest, Bayou. Let's do a round of applause for her. She is a filmmaker, but on top of that, she is an empowering individual, and I can't wait to dive into her story and her contributions to the film industry. And thank you so much for making the journey over here, over the hill.
Oh, thank you.
Over the hill. For those of you who don't know, in LA, when you're going over the hill, you're going over the valley, and sometimes that just takes so long. So thank you for making the trek. And there was no traffic today, which was
I couldn't believe it.
Great.
It was a miracle.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about, were you always a Los Angelino? And, how did you make your way here?
Yeah, so literally I was a little girl that grew up in the South. So a tiny little town of 3,000 people, and It's called Arkansas, and it is a beautiful place. It has artistic, kind of flair to it. But I grew up there, and I would play dress up, and then I found, my friend's camera, and I was like, doing these big performances with my friends and filming it. And so I was dreaming of being a filmmaker in a tiny little town. And then I moved to New York, and then I was doing filmmaking there. I was also a performance artist and a teacher of filmmaking at Parsons New School. Awesome. And I was the first woman to teach there. And then I met my husband, and then we combined our forces and moved to Hollywood, as they say.
Oh my gosh, what a story. That's such a cookie cutter, small town with young girl, and kind of just finds her way over to Hollywood. And so what was your perception of Hollywood back then?
Yeah, well, I always loved films, and I just loved how it would take you away from your world, whatever it is. In my case, it was very small. There was nothing really to do, and you just had the lake to go to. But for me, I was I know there's more to than the small town. And so the movies would take me away. And I knew that I wanted to create that for other people, to make them feel or, bring them into another world or aesthetics or bring some sort of a message or different point of view that they may not have.
Yeah, all of those for the right reasons. I think the reason why we watch movies is to get lost or learn a lesson that we might not know. What are some of your favorite films growing up?
Well, I'd have to say, funny enough, I grew up in the 80s, so, The Breakfast Club.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Classic.
Exactly. Any inspiring film? I mean, there were so many. I feel like there was more inspiring films back in the 80s. I know that we have some now, but we need more.
We need more.
Yeah.
It's now become about ticket sales and who famous is in the actual movie more so than the actual message behind it.
Exactly.
That's definitely changed a little bit.
True.
So when you were in New York, you were gaining experience, you were teaching, you were performing, you were just in the industry.
That's right.
Were there certain challenges that you bumped up against? And, also as a first woman teaching at somewhere, how was that like for you?
Well, it's a really good question. So I was in my 20s teaching probably 20-year-olds. and it was college level. Yeah. And so there was that. I did feel being even a female filmmaker, the same thing, being female, but the funny thing is that we just, if you look at it, we have different bodies, but our mind is still there and the creativity. Yeah. So I would have to prove myself, I have to say, because I was literally flown to Jordan, Amman, which is a Middle Eastern country. Yes. And some of my students were fully covered and I'm not, and I'm a woman, and early 20s. And I had to prove myself. At the end of it, they were please don't go back. We want you to stay here. And they had the best experience. And and that would happen every single time. Even on set, I would have to prove myself. As a dancer, a little bit, I called it a little bit you have to be the best you can be. Yeah. And so.
And it's just kind of crazy to think that there was a world where there was none of that for women, right? And it's always this thing of having to prove yourself because of just that you're a woman. And that's just so unfair. I feel that hopefully for the generations moving forward, they won't have to deal with that. But I experienced some of that too as a woman business owner, also an Asian business owner, and really being singled out of oh, what do you know? Or what are you doing here? Like, why do you qualify? So it's interesting to see in your industry as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's getting more and more accepted and as we go on. And I think that's what's beautiful about the upcoming, the young generation, that they're more accepting. And but definitely it was kind of plowing the way for women in general, and I feel that has been one of my roles as a filmmaker. Yeah.
And like, did you have any specific role models or mentors that really pulled you in that direction to be a filmmaker?
Yeah. I would say it was interesting because that was one of my 5 tips, is to get a mentor. Yeah. Because I feel like as a dancer, I had a mentor. She was like a top dancer in New York, and she really showed me, how to be professional as a dancer. And then as a teacher, I kind of had to, learn how to do it. And I would watch my co-workers and see how they did it, and then learn from the best. And then in terms of a filmmaker, yes, like Sofia Coppola is one of my favorite female directors. And so I definitely would watch and just learn from the best, like literally, like, well, how did they do that? Pull the scene apart, or the dancing. How did she do that? What muscle did she use? I would always pull apart the best and then see how I could be the best that I could be at what I was creating.
That is a wonderful strategy. And I think sometimes when people see those that are more established than you think, oh my God, I could never do that. But I think your approach is more like, hey, let me observe, and then let me go ahead and see how I can pull that into my style and then incorporate it that way. And I think that is so genius of you to do that.
Thank you.
Tell me about your first film.
Yeah, okay, so, my first film was called Me, My Father, and the Hurricane, and it was about my father, who's a musician from Louisiana, and then, it's when the hurricanes happened, when Hurricane Katrina happened, so I kind of equated his life like the Hurricane Katrina, and how he, at the same time, he was becoming a famous musician. The lead singer of his band died, like in a tragic accident, and his life was never the same, so I kind of followed, his career from the 70s, playing the Jazz New Orleans Film, music festival, to then where he is today, and kind of how it was kind of up and down, but it was a beautiful story. And then we actually grew closer. It was a documentary, and we played it in the Hot Springs Film Festival, and it was a favorite. And for me, that was like, I was like, okay, that's it. Like, that's it. I'm going to be a filmmaker, because I created a message of, like, sure, we all go through ups and downs, and maybe we lose touch with certain people, like, well, in that case, father and daughter relationship, but we became closer, and it was such a good experience as a filmmaker. I was like, wow, I can reach this many people with this message, and it was just a wonderful experience.
I love that you made your first film something that related back to your family, almost like this contribution and ode and celebration of him.
That's right.
Definitely can resonate, because I recently, wrote a book about my mom's journey from being a refugee in Cambodia and coming to America. And yeah, there's just so many valuable messages that you can, number one, pull from like your parents and their life, but you are like the vehicle to, tell more people about that story, and that will always live on through film. That's of right. His life. So super, super cool. I love that was your first project, and I love that you guys grew closer too. I think, personally, I've never made a film, but I have a lot of friends in production, whether that they're like the director of photography or an assistant, or one person on the crew, because I've also catered some donuts to like these film things, and just known people. And it really is more than an experience of the person watching the film, but the crew that's putting it together. And it's would you say it's like bonding, or would you say that with every film that it's been a very unique bonding experience each time?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think because as a painter or a dancer, like, you're just creating the art, but as a filmmaker, like, there are so many people that have contributed to this art, and it is a little bit like, it can be like being in the army, like there's no sleep, you gotta get it done no matter what, and you gotta like move things around, make things happen, make movie magic, and it can be a bonding experience. And I do feel that there's some people that that I continue to work with over and over again, because we do bond, and we've gone through it, and we've gone through the end, and it's, created this beautiful, whatever it is, this film that is now being, screened or experienced by others. It's a wonderful bonding experience.
Tell me also about the feeling of being on set and, going through like the day in the life of a filmmaker. Like, of course, we're going to abridge it because there's a lot that happens on set, but like, if you can condense it to maybe like would you say your best day at the set and your worst day at the set, and what that looks like?
Sure. So the best day on set would be like when you've done a lot, it's called pre-production. So you've done all the work up to it. So you have your storyboards, which is the drawings, and you have the shot list, which tells you exactly, what you're going to shoot at what time. And then you have all your team all lined up, and they're all the best, and they're all there with you, and they're all on the same page. That's the best day, when it just runs smooth. And like, then you start, when all those things come together and you really see your vision coming to life. I mean, that is a dream come true every single time. Every single time. A nightmare would be the opposite, when your cinematographer shows up late, an hour late to a national TV commercial that you're about to direct, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to answer to this advertising company and this company that has hired us. It's like, and then it puts everything back, and then you go overtime, and then it's stressful, and you're running and trying to get each shot. That honestly, that's usually...
That can be stressful.
That can be stressful.
And here in LA, people are always a little bit late, right? They're like 15 minutes late, but an hour
traffic.
late. Yes, an hour late. I can only imagine you're kind of sitting there, you're nervous because you care, And I think a lot of like, business owners too, when you are late on something, like it is heart-wrenching because you're just like, you have that expectation from the client and then from your team and all of that. So thank you for sharing that, by the way,
welcome.
About like your best and worst days. I think people need to get a really clear view on like that it's not always rainbows and butterflies.
Exactly.
And in fact, it's like, it's really just working at things one by one, making sure everything goes in a line, just like you said, like in the Army.
That's right.
So your first film was, very heartfelt and very connected to you. And so when you're a filmmaker, did you do like, how long did you wait till your next one? Did you do more commercial stuff in between? Was it kind of like, I'm taking all I can get, and then your name got more and more popular? Or was it more like, you're constantly pitching to different storylines that you were into?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So being an independent filmmaker, that means that in this case, I've been lucky enough to kind of create my own work. Yeah. So the next film, I remember being stuck on the airplane, airport with my husband, and we were sitting there and we were like, what would be a good, a short film for us to do together? And we decided to do this film called Text Me. It was about the texting generation before it was a thing. So you would see some students texting, sitting next to each other in my course room, or and then Facebook was just becoming a thing, and we did this first date short film, and we used Matt Bennett from Nickelodeon's Victorious, and he was amazing, and that film ended up getting I think 15 film festivals, so you have to beat out other filmmakers, and then it won 3 top awards from like Fox Searchlight and top new Regency and all these different amazing companies. And we won one of the film festivals that got our management, and that's when we moved to Hollywood. We did play in Times Square, and then for 3 days on the big kind of big Tron, and then we also eventually went viral with that one. So that was us together, me and my husband.
I love that you guys did it together.
Yes.
And a lot of people, because I work with my boyfriend too, we have a few businesses together, and they're like, how do you work together? How do you be together all the time? So any advice for that, for people who want to explore a business with their significant other?
So, my main advice is, so you know how like you say you wear different hats, right? So like a fireman would wear a fireman hat, a cook would wear a cook hat. So for us, I wear a different hat for being, so say we co-direct, I put my hat on as co-director, for producer or vice versa. Then, then we have our work day, and then at night, when it's dinner time, now I put on my hat as a mom, and then when it's date night, I put my hat on as a wife, and so that's how, you just have to separate them out.
That's the perfect way to describe it, and like, my boyfriend does a really good job of that, but I don't do that good of a job of that, because then I'm emotionally into it. But yeah, he puts his best friend hat on, and then he'll put, his boyfriend hat on, and he'll put his work person hat on. And it is very, very helpful to have somebody who kind of knows you well enough as a person. And, you're going to run into times where you don't agree. I think that's normal, even in friendships.
Sure. Even
in your family. So to basically have, the hat thing, that is great to share. And I hope you guys out there are not discouraged from working with your significant other, because it's the greatest thing ever.
True.
So after you did that film, what was next?
Okay, so I think, and I should have said this first. So our first was a TV pilot. And we did it with Leah Michelle from Fox's Glee.
Cool.
And yeah, because in New York you could travel to different neighborhoods and be just taken away to that culture. So we did one with Little India. Cool. So we would go there on dates, and then we're like, we should do a show about it. And we went with Leah Michelle. And so that was our first one. We won the New York Television Festival pilot, and so that was our first one. Then Text Me. And then we came to LA, and that's when we did our first documentary, LA Aboriginal, about an LA artist, because we're like, okay, there's a lot of, films about New York, but what about LA? Yeah. And so we did that, and it was about the culture and art in his world, and we ended up starting a whole movement for him. So now he's super famous from the documentary, he claims, and I agree with him. And there's this whole art movement with top film artists that he had brought into his group, and they have a whole skateboarding company. Like, it's all been from this documentary. And I remember going to the art show and being in a line down the road. I was like, we helped create this. This is amazing. But that one got into 25 film festivals. We keep beating ourselves. And then won 6 awards. So that played all over the world for a year, and that was really lovely.
I'm getting goosebumps.
Aww.
Because I don't think a lot of people understand through the power of film and media that you can change someone's life by just, highlighting what they're up to. And but it has to be done in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like to me that you guys have an incredible team.
It's true.
That works together like a well-oiled machine to get that vision and message out there.
So true.
When you come up with these ideas, like when do they come to you? Like, are you doing research? Are you talking to people? Is it like in a dream? My mom used to dream about hot dog donuts, and we put them on the menu. But you know what I mean? Like,
that's amazing.
Things would come to her in dreams. So how did they come to you?
Well, it's funny. Then I'll move on to the next film, because so we were doing we decided to do documentaries because then that was easier because it was just me and Daniel.
Yes.
So we moved into mainly documentaries at that point. We went to the Philippines and we were doing the Doctors Without Borders. So we were hired.
Perfect.
And then from that, we saw 6,000 families living in cemeteries. And we're like, oh my God, we have to do we have to talk about this. We have to do a film about this. So then we raised the money for that and then did a film about that. So our ideas come from what we see in the environment. So Text Me was about the texting generation, and then how we were losing a little bit of communication. Then the Philippines film was helping the families that were living in the cemetery. So it's kind of like, for me, the ideas come from my environment and what's happening.
I think that's the perfect place to get them from, and just to kind of see like, oh, like this is interesting, or like, hey, the world needs to see this.
That's right. And
just also the way that you approach each project, it just sounds like everything meant something to you, that's why you went after it, and that there needs to be some kind of activism that's associated with filmmaking as well.
It's true.
You mentioned that you were raising money for certain films. How is that process like? And I know that's just kind of always a question, right? Like when you're exploring a career, like being a filmmaker, you're like, well, how am I going to get this money? So what's some actual experiences that you've done, and how did you end up raising that money?
Yeah, good question. So we have 2 sides to our business. So that would be the independent film side that I have explained, and that side is you do like a proposal. It's called a pitch deck, and so that one we had already done a successful music video with this investor. We'd done the Doctors Without Borders with her and her husband, and then now we're showing her this final product that we wanted to film. So we would basically we knew that she wanted to be famous so she could get her Doctors Without Borders, her Hope for the World Foundation out there, because they would go to the Philippines and give care to others. So we knew what the client wanted. We knew how we could help her. So that would be the first thing. And then the second thing is we put in a document that showed her. So we wrote, it's called a treatment. So it's the beginning, middle, and end. And then we put pictures like, this is the actors, this is what they're going to do, this is what they're going to wear, this is the location. And then we pitched it to her, and then she funded it. And that's happened a couple of times with independent investors.
Amazing. And do you prefer the independent investor route versus like a larger company that comes in?
Yeah, so then that's a good question. So the other side of the company is like commercials. Okay, so that would be like a bigger company. Like, so American Express came and funded our Lindsay Sterling music video.
Amazing.
Yeah, and that was amazing. And it was a dream come true. I'm a huge fan of hers.
Yeah.
So I was like, at one point I was like, pinch myself, I'm here.
Can you autograph me?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a filmmaker.
Exactly. Just be calm. It's all just breathe. Like, so, but that was amazing. But so American Express, we had to make sure that they had what they needed. Like, there are a certain amount of seconds. So, but we had to keep Lindsay's, because she likes to have a lot of vision in it as well. And then we had to make sure that we kept the art on ours end, because so it's like you have to balance a lot when you have an investor like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And would you say that it's also like a little bit less control? Obviously your creative input is there, but it's kind of more or less, those are the deliverables that company wants. We have to make sure that gets done, and maybe we won't throw in something crazy that you would normally do.
You are so right. Like, one of those, like, this is a secret, like, but not anymore. Like, so basically, the secrets. So, like, for Lindsay, like, we're used to doing in music videos a little bit bigger things, and she wanted to show how that the people out there are the angels out there. So it was another hurricane. It was a music video about the hurricane survivors and actually heroes of Houston. And so she wanted to show that. And at one point I was like, I didn't pitch it to her. We pitched her the perfect pitch deck. Remember, it's that it showed her what we were thinking, and she loved it. We had like wings on the people who helped. It was beautiful. But at one point I was like, oh, well, we're doing this, the fire station. Why don't we put you on the fire truck, and then you're playing the music? She's like, nope, I just wanted to be documentary. And I'm like, okay.
Like, but it looks so good.
Beautiful.
Like, I could just see it.
Exactly. So sometimes that happens, and I was like, okay, but even though I knew it would be amazing, it would still get her vision across, she just didn't want to do it. So that there are points like that, and you do have to like work with your clients and make sure they get what they need and want.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a whole balancing act of just on so many levels for you.
That's right.
It's like, okay, gotta make sure we make these people happy. Gotta make sure I'm happy because it's your name on it.
That's right.
Gotta make sure the actors and actresses are happy with it too.
It's true.
And I think that is that's a really great skill to have, of just learning how to balance so many personalities and so many desires and needs and wants for like a production.
You are so smart, I have to say. It's so true. It's so true.
I think because I've like been on a lot of different sides of it, because we had a documentary, The Donut King.
Oh, right.
And, it was literally a cold call. The filmmaker Alice, she cold called me, and I was like, you're talking to the right person. Like, I can tell you exactly what you need to do, and like I'll give you the plot of what it should look like. These are the characters that have these, and a lot of collaboration and making sure that could all happen. And a lot of with filmmaking too, especially if it's about like a touchy subject, is you have to really respect like the family that's being presented, or you have to really respect certain very sacred things that aren't really talked about.
That's
like in The Donut King, it was basically going into the stories of my great uncle Ted and how he created this huge donut empire, but then he lost all gambling. And so within the family, like, we hadn't really talked to him in a while. He had this reputation. And so to have this documentary come in and kind of tell it all and get experiences from other family members, it was almost actually kind of like a healing experience where we could come together and like finally talk about it and also tell the whole world about it.
Wow.
And there are amazing benefits to it too. Like we were recognized won some film awards as well, and like we were on airlines, and unfortunately it was during the pandemic, so there was like kind of limited showings for it, but it's being shown like around the world, like in Japan, and it's back on Hulu, so it's been really great too. And like just like how you're sharing earlier, like there's just such a profound impact that media has on an individual or a business or a company, that it's just kind of the way that the story is told.
That's right. And
then it also depends on who is trusted to tell that story.
So important.
Yeah. Well, it's been, so how many years has it been since you've been a filmmaker?
So I always lose count, but I think it's been, well, it's I think 17 years. So
17 years?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Can you believe that it's been 17 years?
It doesn't feel like it.
You making complete magic for the world?
I can't believe it.
I mean, it's really awesome to just kind of hear that it started off of a dream of a little girl. And I kind of also feel that when you're a little girl, around what age would you say you were?
I was very young, like, so between like 7 and 13 is when I was,
so between 7 and 13, even as a young girl, I think kids kind of already have an idea of what they're gravitating towards.
That's right.
And were your parents ever involved in kind of pushing you in that direction? Like, did they encourage it, or did they kind of like say, oh no, you shouldn't do that?
Well, I love that you asked that, because so my mom, she always encouraged anything that I wanted to be or become. She always did it. She drove an hour to do violin lessons, an hour back. I wanted to, I wanted to ride horseback lessons, and I would jump professionally. She would drive an hour and back, for me. And then in high school, there was no dance drill team. And I was like, I want to start the dance drill team. And she sponsored it, so she always, like, I know it's like, it warms my heart, because she really gave me the opportunities. I went to New Zealand for an exchange program because of her. She's like, and I was like, I'm never going to be the same person again. Like, because I got to see the world out there. I was like, and then she always encouraged me to be and do and have what I wanted. Like, I have to say, my mom always, anything that I wanted to do, she supported it, especially as an artist, because that can be the opposite in a family. So I was very lucky.
Yeah, that was definitely the opposite in my family. Any kind of like philanthropy or artist type of career was very like, no, we should do business, like, and my background, it's like my parents survived genocide. They just want something safe, and everybody has their own parenting style, but to really hear you, like, and your mom, how dedicated she was to you, and just like, you want to do this, all right, let's go for it, okay. And like, it just goes to show that around that time is when it needs to be nurtured of these like, kind of like the vibrational pull towards a certain career or a certain choice. And I'm so glad that you were able to be in that environment to nurture that, because a lot of people don't get to have that.
Yeah, thank you. And now
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, thank you, Mom. But I do pass that, because of her, I'm able to do that for my son.
Amazing.
Anything he wants to be, I'm like, okay, let's make it happen. Let's buy those shin guards for soccer. He's going to be a DJ on Friday at his school talent show. So I'm like, okay, we got the whole outfit. We've been practicing, and whatever it is,
He's got to get his hand movements too.
I've been practicing that.
Yeah, you're gonna
get with the audience.
Yeah, like, you gotta raise the roof. That is super cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah, and I think also inherently that we are all artists in our own way. Like, even chefs. Like, you look at chefs and you think it's just food. No, it's an expression through food.
It's true.
It's their art. Like, there's some times where I look at food and like at a fancy restaurant, I'm like, how did they dehydrate these, and then they fried them, and then they like made them into this thing, and I'm biting into this candy, but it's actually not a candy, like the human mind is quite incredible.
It is.
And the imagination should be celebrated and should be nurtured.
I
think
agree.
That is just something that we should normalize moving forward. That
I so agree.
Yeah, and because you never know if you're gonna stumble upon a bayou, but who like decides that, you know, she's gonna take her imagination, her dreams, and really run with it, and that is so beautiful.
Aw, thank you.
Are you working on anything right now?
Yeah, well, I've got a couple of things. So we have this it's funny because we have two sides of our business. So we have the commercial side. So I have two commercials. So one's for the Daily Crave, and it's really fun because it's a chip company, but they have this fun branding. So it's got like an alien kind of vibe. So we're doing like a kind of dance concept with them right now. I can't say too much. Yeah. And then the other one is Teen Cancer America. So we always have some sort of a message or we want to help in some way. So this company goes and helps young teenagers go through cancer in a very uplifting environment. So they bring music or they bring celebrities in to be with the person that's going through this, or they make the environment like beautiful for them, or they bring something into the other teenagers that are going through it so they can not go through it alone. So we're doing 3 films for them, which I'm very excited about, and I love helping. And then we're doing a feature film, which I'm super excited about. Like that is like, this is like next level. Like I'm excited to get it out into the world. And again, it has that message of to help others heal through certain sports. And in this case, I'm not sure how much I can say, but it's very exciting, and it's gonna be we're in pre-production, and that's the next level of the filmmaking career. And I love that because you can always build and get bigger and bigger and reach the billions and help others. That's so important.
I mean, at this point, I don't think that there's anything that you can't do. Are there any specific people that you've been like, you would think like you've never, like you've always wanted to work with?
Yeah.
Like, and that it's like you're reaching for it, but ended up working with, and who's next on that list?
Yeah, so, well, it's funny because my husband and I were watching a movie with Mark Ruffalo, and we're like, we'd love to work with him. So we got to do a campaign with him about it was anti-fracking, where they keep the oil in the ground. So it was a documentary. So we got to work with him. It's like, my favorite actors, I would love to have them, like, to work with them on a narrative film, a film that's not documentary, because that there is a reason they are at the level that they are. They can literally transform and be that character. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure you've worked with some actors and actresses that are great and some that are not so great.
Yes.
And you can tell by now.
Yes.
How they're going to perform.
It's true.
But yeah, like, really, really good actors are like chameleons. They
That's right.
Can become that thing that you want them to be.
It's amazing.
How much time does it take from like the treatment and like casting and for like the actors and actresses to learn all the lines and everything for like a feature film? For a feature film,
so the way it works is you get the funding first, and that would be the way that I had showed you with the presenting, and you get the we also have some products that'll be in, and they're called product placement, so they'll be in the film and they'll put money. Okay, so then fast forward to the actor. So then you book your actor, and then you work with them on, they do whatever they need to do in terms of working with the acting coach. And in our case, we tend to we have a specific acting coach we work with, Amanda from the Acting Center here in LA. And then, so that would be about, for us, we really do have them work for at least a month or 2 before we shoot. Yeah. And then we'll do rehearsals. We'll be looking at, we've already started location scouting, and but the actor, like, for us, we put them through whatever it is that they're going to learn. We like literally have them do it many times. Yes. So like our film Time is Eternal is our recent short film. It's beautiful, about Cleopatra. If Cleopatra came and sat and had a conversation with Mary, who was a 1700 writer who fought for women's rights. So it's so it's like Cleopatra, the sword, or Mary, the pen. The pen. Yeah. So we ended up working with that actress, and she played both parts. Well, all 5 parts, actually. She was, and so it's very unique. So she ended up doing a lot language work, and she also worked with our acting coach. She didn't swim, and there's a part where she jumps in the pool, and then she does underwater swimming, and so we're like, and then also she, in the film, it's very abstract. At one point, she turns into a mermaid, and so we had her go to mermaid school. So like literally literally, it's like we had to go and do everything. But I'm telling you, she was all in, because when my husband and I, Daniel, we like work so hard. But when the actor goes that level, then that's when the movie magic happens.
Oh, yeah. Like, from not knowing how to swim or be a mermaid to needing to learn how to swim and be a mermaid. I mean, the dedication is just, it has to be there to make it, like, the best movie.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, like, I'm so, like, I can just feel, like, your energy of just how passionate you talk about your films. And even people, like, my friend who's a director of photography, like, he gets very passionate about the message and everything, too.
Good.
And, you know, these moments need to be captured. These stories need to be told. And what better way than somebody who's experienced and really seasoned and worked in a lot of different environments, a lot of different movies and commercials and other types of films.
Sure.
And I wanted to also just ask you the 5 golden nuggets, you know, which is my favorite part of the podcast, where, you know, I want to basically, if there was a young girl who maybe not have, like, the same experience as you did, where, you know, maybe she doesn't have the mom to, like, drive her to and from, but, like, is interested, or maybe we're talking about somebody who's, like, fresh out of college and really interested in being a filmmaker. What are 5 tips that you could give this woman on how to become a successful filmmaker like yourself?
Yeah. So, well, I did move from a tiny little town to New York all by myself, so I had to learn the hard way. You don't wave at everyone. In this small town, you wave. Like, so, like, I really, like, had to learn how to be a professional and, like, that. So, number 1 is, there is a business side to it. It is art, but there is business. So you need to learn the business side. So that would mean learning how to sell. So, and, like, it could be anything from, like, when you're talking to somebody, be passionate, be excited, and like, tell them the benefits. You know, don't be afraid of that. And then number 2, whatever it is, if you're to be a filmmaker, always have your branding down. Like, what does that mean? Like, how are you different from the other filmmakers? Yeah. And then also, like, for us, we always have a message. So we're called the Dream Team Directors, because we sell up products, make people famous, and we uplift, or we have a message, or it's aesthetics, or make you feel in some way, or help you see something differently. So that's our branding, and we never go off of that. So that's number 2. So 1 is business side, know how to sell, branding, and then always know your worth and your value, because I know a lot of artists don't understand, like, it is important to know how much you should charge. Really? Yeah. So the dentist knows, the doctor knows, like, as an artist, no matter what it is, you need to know how much you're worth. And your experience, and as you grow, your worth is more. And don't ever, like, as an artist, don't ever think that you're less than what you're worth. And then finally, I think I'm on number 4 is like, just don't be afraid to promote. Like, a lot of artists feel like, oh, that's bragging or this and that. It's not. It's survival. Like, you have to promote. So, and I mean by, like, on social media, don't be, like, if you're going to your screening, like, tell the world. Like, like, just, you know, do a live, you know, streaming, or do a TikTok video, or do a poster and push it out there. Like, and for us, we have enough content for a whole year. When we do a film, we know we're going to be in film festivals for a year. We do behind the scenes. And then finally, never give up. Never, no matter how hard it is. Like, maybe there's a month you can't pay your rent, just go create, and then just, like, and communicate and promote, and email that person that you did get a job from before, email the next person, email, and do all those things that I just talked about, and never forget, because if you stay within your branding and you know who you are, then you will always, you know, people will come to you for that thing, and you will always feel good about it. Yeah. You always have to really, like, express your why. And, you know, great points, by the way. I agree with all of those. Just even, like, if you're not even a filmmaker and you want to just, like, kill it in life. Yes. Those are some great pillars already to take on with you. Thank you. And I think that's a lot, like, what a lot of people struggle with. You know, they don't know how to price their items. They don't know how to pitch. They don't know their brand. They don't know themselves. And these are really, really important things that you need to know before you tell the world about it. That's right. And
bragging on social media. No, it's you have to tell the people what you're up to. Like,
it's true.
People are not going to be like, I wonder what she's up to. You have to tell them. And what better way when, people are glued to their phones anyways.
Exactly.
all the time. And tell them from your point of view. I think,
that's right.
all the behind the scenes things, I do that all the time of what I'm up to, and people love it because it's I'm a real person, I'm working and I'm doing these things. And the why, again, is so important because people will always gravitate towards your why.
So true. Your purpose, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's beautiful.
And you also have a special course.
Yeah.
That she's offering it to my viewers if you use the code Donut Princess for the content creation.
That's right.
Course. Tell us a little bit more about what's included in that course, and the link will be below and in the information of how to sign up.
That's right. Well, so during the pandemic, my husband and I created this course because we wanted anybody from entrepreneurs to influencers to business owners to be able to create their own content. And so we created it so that it's the things I talked about are in it. So what's your branding? How can you take just a phone and make it professional? What are those few little things that you need to just tweak it? What audio, what lighting? And so we have that in there as well as, how can you practice? What do you say? It's all in there.
Oh my gosh. I think especially in today's day and age, even if you have a personal brand, a professional brand, you're going to want to use social media. I mean, it's a free tool. I think that's what people don't understand. And it just takes commitment, consistency, and it takes you. You're the magic maker. So why do you want to learn all the hard lessons when they've already had the blueprints and from everything? And, I'm actually going to dive into your course as well and check it out too. Because
wonderful.
Everybody can use little extra pointers here and there. And I think that's from 17 plus years of experience, and being able to put that together in a course, I think that is invaluable.
Oh, thank you so much.
Where can people find you if they're looking? And also, do you have a site where people can kind of see what you've previously worked on?
Yeah, so Dream Team Directors is our site, .com, and then we have YouTube, Dream Team Directors, and then our Instagram is Dream Team Directors, and those are the main places. We do have a TikTok that's newer, but Dream Team Directors.
Perfect. I mean, get on that TikTok game because everybody's jumping on, and that's the fastest way you're going to grow right now as well.
It's true.
So for those of you out there who are listening, thank you so much for listening. And if you've ever wanted to be a filmmaker, you have just this person here who has all the tools, the expertise, and the heart. And that's exactly why we brought her on today, is we need more people out there who are working with integrity, people who are working out there with their heart, with a message that they want to give out to that world. And if you think your message is too small, think bigger. You can do it. If she can do it from being from a small town of having a dream as a small girl and make it into Hollywood, you can too. And so thank you so much for listening, and holla at your girl.